Have you ever noticed how much energy we waste trying to convince people we're capable? We explain our intentions, we defend our decision, we even justify our character. We hope if we just say the right thing, people will finally see us differently. But have you ever noticed what usually happens? The moment you defend yourself, you are being called defensive. The moment you explain yourself, you're accused of making excuses. The moment you stand up for yourself, somehow, some way, you're the difficult one. And that's when I realized something that completely changed the way I think. Some people have already decided who you are. No amount of explaining is going to change a conclusion they've already committed to. So maybe the goal was never to win the argument. Maybe the goal was to become so consistent that your results eventually make the conversation irrelevant. Family, for years, I thought the answer was to explain myself. If someone misunderstood my intentions, I'll explain. If someone questioned my character, well, I'll defend it. If someone doubted my abilities, I would work overtime trying to convince them they had me all wrong. I honestly believed if people just knew my heart, if they understood my motives, if they saw how hard I was working, eventually everything would change. But something strange kept happening. The more I explained, the more misunderstood I felt. The more I defended myself, the more people just had a decision to say, he's just very defensive. The more I tried proving I wasn't selfish, somehow, some way, I became the selfish one. Then one day, as I always share with you, that when my mom and my grandma told me, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, not tired of working, but tired of explaining. One afternoon, I was watching a football game. The final whistle blew. One team celebrated. The other team walked off disappointed. The camera zoomed into the scoreboard, and something so ordinary happened. Almost missed it. The scoreboard doesn't explain why one team won. It doesn't apologize for the missed opportunity. It didn't even defend the referee. It didn't even care who agreed with the outcome. It just simply reported the score. And that's when it hit me. The scoreboard was never argued with anyone. Here's a reflection. I wonder how many years we've all lost trying to win conversations that were never going to change someone's mind. Every hour spent defending your reputation is an hour you could have spent improving it. Every minute spent arguing with an opinion is a minute not invested in becoming undeniable. Maybe, just maybe, we've been playing the wrong game all along because the scoreboard doesn't reward intention, it records execution. Principle number one, the scoreboard principle. Think about it. The scoreboard doesn't care what you intended to do. It doesn't even care how talented you are. It doesn't care how unfair life has been. It doesn't even care who you believe in or doubt it in. It records one thing, execution. That's true in sports. It's true in business. It's true in leadership. And it is true in this thing that I love that I hope you fall in love with called project management. Here's a lesson. The scoreboard doesn't reward intention. It records execution. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, ask yourself this question. Will this conversation improve my scoreboard? Hey, listen, if the answer is yes, this builds trust. It repairs a relationship. It creates alignment or helps someone understand an important decision after the conversation. If the answer is no, because you're only trying to win an argument or convince someone who's already made up their mind about you, stop talking. Let's just get back to work and let your scoreboard finish the conversation. Second, instead of asking, how do I convince people? I want you to ask, what evidence can I create over the next 90 days that speaks louder than this conversation? Here's my professional advice, family. The most respected leaders I've worked with rarely spend time defending themselves. They spend their time delivering, and eventually their consistency becomes their introduction. Once I understood that, I stopped worrying about whether people believed in my vision because something interesting always happens. Principle number two, they'll tell you it won't work until it does. Again, they will tell you it won't work until it does. Have you ever noticed this pattern? Because success, everyone has advice, everyone has an opinion, everyone has a reason why it just won't work. Then something changes. Not the critics, the evidence. Once the evidence, well, wait a minute. Once the results begin showing up, people suddenly start rewriting history. Now they say, you know what? I knew you could do it. No, they didn't. The scoreboard changed. Here's the lesson I want you to think about, family. People don't always believe in your vision. Eventually, they believe in your results. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, don't measure your progress by an applause. Measure it by execution. Second, if nobody believes in your vision today, don't waste energy convincing them. Invest that energy into building the evidence. Here's my professional advice. Every meaningful project begins before other people can see what you see. That's why leaders are paid to execute through uncertainty, not popularity. Then I realized something even bigger. The hardest permission to stop waiting for wasn't theirs, it was actually mine. Principle number three, stop waiting for permission to become who you're capable of becoming. Oh, this is starting to get good to me, family. I spent years asking people to believe in a version of me that only existed in my head. Then and only then I realized it wasn't their responsibility to see it first. It was my responsibility to build it first. Some people spend years waiting for approval from family, approval from coworkers, approval from social media, approval from their boss, even approval from people who aren't even building the life that they're asking permission to live. I want you to think about that for a minute. Approval from people who aren't even building the life they're asking permission to live. Meanwhile, time keeps moving and the scoreboard, well, the scoreboard does what it does. Here's the lesson I want you to think about. Your future doesn't require everyone's approval. It requires continued execution. Here's two actionable tips I'd love for you to experiment with. First, identify one area of your life where you've been waiting for permission. And I challenge you, let's start this week. Second one, commit to becoming consistent enough that your work eventually introduces you before you even have to. Here's my professional advice. Confidence rarely comes before action. More often, confidence is the receipt that execution leaves behind. Here's the final reflection, family. People can argue with your opinions. They can question your motives. They can misunderstand your intentions. They can even write a story about who they think you are. But, oh, this is what I love when the words come but. Because see, but eventually every story runs into one problem, the evidence. Because your reputation is rarely changed by your explanation. It's changed by your consistency. And I'll leave you with this thought that changed the way I looked at my own life. The scoreboard doesn't tell you who you are. It tells you what you've repeatedly done. The beautiful part about the truth is that tomorrow's score hasn't been written yet. Stop trying to defend it yesterday. Start executing today because the scoreboard has never argued with anyone. It just simply told the truth. Or as my granny would say, like it TIE. Here's my closing thought. Your future isn't built by the conversations you win. It's built by the commitments you keep when nobody is watching. Now, go build a scoreboard your future self will be proud of to look back on. If this episode challenged you in the way you've been thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you don't remember anything else about today's episode, ask of you, I implore upon you to remember this. Let your scoreboard finish the conversation. Stats and reps beat talent when talent doesn't do the rep. If you're new to the episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.